Greetings, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Plan B Success. Today, we have a couple with us, Kerry Anderson and Adam Anderson. They have a business, a very unique business that they probably stumbled upon as they were trying out different businesses, is my feeling on it. Whole Life Entrepreneurship, that's what they call it. And, Adam's been in business. He's seen the ups and downs, being there front and center, while Kerry was right behind him managing the family, and she's seen the ups and downs on the family front. As a result, they've gone through their own, turmoils, skirmishes, whatever you want to call it, but they found their way around and they figured it out in terms of how do they work as a couple and as a family in order to keep their life up where it needs to be, up and center, prioritized, while they continue down their entrepreneurial path. And they've turned that into a business. That's what whole life entrepreneurship is all about. They call themselves the chief family officers of this corporation. In fact, Kerry has actually put a book together around this. I'll have Kerry talk about her book as well. So let's learn from them as to what their journey has been, how did they get to where they are, and what are they looking forward to do as they go forward. So welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having us.
Yes, this is going to be fantastic.
Yeah.
Awesome. So tell me, where did you actually begin and where did whole life entrepreneurship really happen?
Well, Adam has been in the cybersecurity business for about 20 years, which means you're getting really old.
No. This is blonde hair. This is gray hair. This is wisdom hair.
Yeah, so for maybe 14 years of that, he had his own cybersecurity company, and that was really his first experience with having a business. And this was all started, when we were still dating. And so I was right alongside him the whole time. What we didn't know was that when Adam started his own business, he started a love for businesses that we had no idea was going to take us on a really wild ride. So I think in those 14, 15 years, Adam has started about 19 companies.
Wow.
I think we've had 3 of those be successful and 1 exit. So it has been quite a journey. And as your listeners probably know, it can be really stressful,
Sure.
to say the least. The roller coaster ride that is business ownership and entrepreneurship is a crazy ride. And being the spouse at home, I really initially had nothing to do with any of the businesses. And so it really took me by surprise when things were on a down slope, and it caused a lot of issues in our relationship and in our family, and really put us through the ringer. And it's really a wonder that we came out the other side.
Yeah, the genesis that came out of all that, the byproduct of that is we looked around for some help, and there was no help to be had. There was nobody out there holding the sign saying, if you are in an entrepreneurial relationship and your business is going sideways and your family is struggling, come here for help. Right. And so that kind of sparked the work that Kerry did and made us kind of decide, well, look, if we can't find a group to help us, we might as well start something ourselves.
Yeah, at the time, Adam was working as the entrepreneur in residence at the Clemson MBA program here in Greenville, South Carolina. And he would have me go talk to the spouses of some of his students and kind of, talk them off the ledge when they were worried about making certain decisions that would affect their family. And so it just really came down to one day me saying, I should just write a book about this. And Adam said, no, really, you should. And so that's what I did. I wrote the book, In Bed with the Business, an Entrepreneurial Spouse's Survival Guide.
Awesome. So, Adam, that was quite an appetite you had there. 19 businesses, huh?
Oh, yeah.
And counting.
No, I have a goal to launch 1,000 businesses in the next 15 years. And actually, it's kind of upsetting because we just got back from Bangkok and we went to a conference together with about 300 location-independent entrepreneurs. And they asked me hard questions in my mastermind. Why are you trying to launch 1,000 businesses? And it turns out that I was working off of old reasons that were no longer relevant. And so I'm like, man, yeah, this is the wrong strategy for the wrong time. It's time to pivot. Dang it, again?
Yeah.
So
when you look at the entrepreneurial world of today, right? Everybody wants that one single unicorn that they can build and retire, right? That's what they want to do. So so let's take a step back and find out how you actually got into entrepreneurship.
So I'll start, and then you can tell the more interesting story, I think, is how you go from watching entrepreneurship to being like, you know what, I can do it better. But I just got tired of corporate America. I was an IBM employee, and I realized that when there were downturns that nobody really knew what I did. And I was just a line item on a spreadsheet that some CFO would have to cut in order to, make the numbers work. And so for me, I began to redefine risk as the riskiest thing I could possibly do is work for a large corporation. The safest thing I could possibly do is own my own destiny, own sales, own customer acquisition, and be immune to somebody firing me because I had a highly sought after skill that I could go out and do. And so I got into entrepreneurship as a solopreneur consultant who was absolutely positive that I was going to go out of business in 6 months. And I felt that way for probably 13 years. But slowly but surely just began to be asked for more and more by my customers and add to it. And so, you made a comment that sometimes we fall into entrepreneurship and fall into having businesses. And I really feel like despite my best efforts, I was brave enough to take the steps and I did the work. I'll give myself credit, but I did not have some grand architecture design on how to build my company. And we got to about 25 employees, a little over 3 million in revenue with pretty decent profit margins. And eventually I was able to fire myself and let the company run by itself for 4 years before selling it.
Awesome. So from there, you said you started as a solopreneur. Were you guys married by that time, or did you start as an entrepreneur after marriage?
I started before we got married.
Okay.
Yeah, I think he started the company about a year before we got married, but we'd been dating for 2 years by that point.
Okay, so you knew what you were getting into when you were getting married.
I'm not sure I can say that with 100% certainty. I remember when he started the company, we were engaged at the time, but I didn't really realize, I was so young, I didn't really understand what it meant for him to be cashing out his 401ks to be starting those companies. I really didn't understand that he was kind of doing those things right before he married me, I guess, so that he didn't have to ask my permission to sign over that.
I wish I was that sneaky. I literally didn't even consider that she might have had a thought about it.
Well,
I was that blind.
And it was exactly that. We did not do a great job of blending those worlds. They always really were very, very separate. Our family stuff and our business stuff. The business stuff was kind of the thing that he did that facilitated our life, and they were not blended well. And it was a mistake to do it that way, and it caused a lot of problems. And you live and you learn, but one of our goals is to really encourage other families to maybe take a step back and do it better and learn from our mistakes.
So when the actual downward spiral started happening, what were some of your emotions? What really triggered it?
Well, one day I came home and said, "Hey, baby, we lost $2 million today. And I don't know where we're going to replace that from." And then we lived happily ever after.
Yeah, it was especially traumatizing because I didn't know anything about how money came into our household. All I knew was how it went out. Mm-hmm. And because there was no background, I didn't handle it very well. And I kind of panicked, freaked out a little bit, started, throwing around blaming and pointing fingers about stuff that I could not possibly have fully understood. But yeah, it certainly made a mess of things because That's a pretty big number to play with.
Well, I mean, it was a lot of the business happening to you.
Yes.
And in our current, and at that stage, there was a lot of victim mentality on both sides because, the business was happening to her out of her control. And then we had a lifestyle that was out of my control and I didn't get to see transparency. So it's interesting how it goes both ways when one person is focused on one side of the coin and the other person's focused on the other. And we have no good communication, no way of actually communicating clearly with each other.
Right. And as we have continued to decide what we wanted Whole Life Entrepreneurship to look at, we've really determined 3 specific pain points that entrepreneurs, business owners, and their families experience on this journey. And those things are feelings of being alone, of being stressed, and being scared. Those things are so amplified by the lifestyle and the riskiness of it that it makes it, every reaction is amplified as well. And it just makes it so much worse.
Right. So, this could have gone both ways, right? So this could have totally gone out of control. But then you guys, figured it out. You guys figured it out saying, hey, something's wrong. We got to take care of it. You tried to go to counselors. And then you came out of it. Then you even said, these are some of the things that we've learned and we should turn it into a business. So just the whole pivot aspect of it as to how you did it, what do you attribute it to? You were, I don't know, I'm asking the question. You were probably at a point where you didn't even want to see each other, right? You were so frustrated with each other, so angry with each other. And it could have easily gone out of control where you could have gone separate ways, but you kept it together. So what do you attribute that aspect to?
Well, so I say at first it was that we had kids and a life together.
Right.
We did not like each other. We were not fans of each other, but we were going to try, right? I tell people kids are no reason to stay together, but they sure are a great reason to try super hard. And eventually, I was exhibiting some self-destructive behaviors, trying to cope with all of that. There was some alcohol involved. I was not in a very good place. And again, I was happening to Kerry and I was happening to the family. And Kerry had to decide what she was going to do. And she had a couple of aha moments. And I'm going to say what they are. And if I'm wrong, she will correct me. I like the first one was one of her friends just took away the option for divorce. When there was a back door that you can leave, then your mind is focused on that door. When that door goes away and you decide you're in it, then you allow yourself to be creative and problem solving. So that was the first thing she did. The second thing she did is she had to decide, does she even like this guy? And what about this guy does she like? And I'm happy to say she said yes, she did actually like who I was. And that changed her behavior. And honestly, it was like a lighthouse in a fog bank for me. It showed me that I was able that there was some place to go where in all this darkness and all this chaos of, in the middle of a failing business, in the middle of a failing marriage, I felt absolutely useless. And there was this angel who was saying, you know what? Yeah, you're screwing up really bad right now, but I kind of love you anyway. So how did I do? Did I describe that right?
You did do well. I think I would add to that just the fact that I think too, in the middle of all of that, I was so angry and so hurt. And again, I didn't handle it super well. And at the end of the day, I think we all just have to look in the mirror and be able to stand the person that we're looking at. And the person that I was looking at was not who I wanted to be.
Right.
And so when I started thinking about, okay, well, he is this way. What about that? If I could, what would I change about that? And to be honest, I wouldn't change anything about him. I mean, some things may annoy me still to this day, but for the most part, I wouldn't change anything because it may change the core of who he is. So the only thing that I could really change was myself. All I could change was how I was responding to things. And so I just kind of went on a little journey of my own that was trying to figure out how to get back to a place where I felt like I was my best self and I was being my best self within my relationship. And, once he kind of saw me doing that and we started pacing alongside each other again and again, this was a slow process. I mean, we make it sound like it was a light switch, but it was a good 5 years that it took us to kind of come back to each other. And then as we started pacing alongside each other again, we could kind of come back together and figure out how to do it better. One of the things that we started doing here in our home was something called a family business meeting, where once a week we had a weekly stand-up. So one of the things that I tried to do when I was trying to find my way back to Adam is I would use some business operational processes that I would apply, from his world into our family world. So this was like a weekly stand-up where we would talk about scheduling, we would talk about money, we would talk about exactly where all of the businesses were, what the statuses were for all of those things. I kind of inserted myself into that world a little bit. And I mean, I wasn't too terribly pushy about it, but I did say, explain to me how all of this works. And it was like he started doing business school for me. And so we would take this time and he would whiteboard stuff. And
she let me make PowerPoints.
Yeah. He would make PowerPoints for me and sort of explain the flow of how things came into our lives and then how they went out. And through that time, as I got more knowledgeable, I found that I was reacting a lot more slowly when things were on a downturn, because I then understood. I understood the roller coaster process. I knew more what I was looking for in situations. I was just overall more educated. And by not reacting so strongly in those situations, I think that we sort of started to treat each other with a little bit more respect. And it turned into more of a partnership, I turned into more of like a chairman kind of situation where, I had a valued opinion that was actually taken into account when decisions were being made. And it really changed the dynamic in our relationship across the board.
Kudos to you guys. Generally what would happen in a situation like this is people let their ego or anger get the better of them and they just burn it up, right? But you guys figured it out. You realized it at some point that you needed to come together, put your heads together, be rational about it. And what I'm in awe of is you were rational about it. You saved your marriage, you saved the family, and you actually turned it into a business where you're an example couple for a lot more other entrepreneurs out there. And
that's terrifying, by the way, being the example.
That's pretty awesome, awesome. Kudos to you guys. That's very, very good because, saving your marriage and saving your family is one thing. And that's where a lot of people end, right? They decide, okay, let me save my family. Let me scurry back to this job, that I can pick up and then just keep things on a playing field here. But you guys decided you were going to continue down the journey of entrepreneurship. But in fact, you were handed a lemon, you turned it into lemonade and are selling it to everyone else now.
Well,
that's right.
Exactly. And again, I guess that was another sort of pivot, right, for us, because I wrote the book and I mean, that was great, fine, bucket list item, check.
Right.
But then we started to get some attention for it. And we started to speak with more and more couples and more families than we'd ever had come to us before. And we were able to kind of go through an interview process that was able to give us enough data to validate the fact that we were not the only ones.
Right,
we are not. These are challenges that probably all business owning families at some point or another have experienced. And there was nobody to help. So, it just kind of gave us that aha moment where it was like, well, if not us, then who? Mm-hmm. Who would help? Who would be the one to say, hey, you're not alone. Let's put our heads together and try and figure out a better way to do this thing called life together.
Mm-hmm.
So when did this happen? When did Whole Life Entrepreneurship come to be?
We started about a year-ish, maybe a little bit more
I would say
ago.
exactly a year. Yeah.
Well, then it started today, 1 year ago.
No, not today.
Okay,
but
very well.
it was last year. We went to the same conference that we just got back from.
Yes.
In Bangkok, Thailand, for the Dynamite Circle. We were there with a group of entrepreneurs, and I had a big sit down with 40 some odd other business owners, and every single one of those, that's just the 40 that came to our group, had a story, a hardship that they were experiencing in their own relationships due to these sort of hidden pains that we're all experiencing and nobody's talking about. And so when we came out of there, we just really came out of there determined that we had to build a resource some way, somehow.
Yep.
So what all do you do under that brand, Tell me a little bit about the programs, the work that
Sure.
gets done.
Well, so the original concept was first we wanted to codify the methodology. And so we looked at the pain points, the hidden pain points of entrepreneurial families, being alone, stressed, and scared. And I picked that because it spells the word ass. And it's funny to have my wife say that on stage. But it's true that each side of the relationship has alone in a different way, isolation in a different way. This fear, either I don't understand how the money's working or I have all the responsibility to make the money. And stress comes in from all of those different parts. And so Kerry developed a way to mitigate all of those different emotions. And it's called the 3 C's, which stand for chill, communication, and community. And the first one, chill, is all about how do you get in touch with you again, right? Mm-hmm. So in our story, it all started with both Kerry and I taking the time for self-exploration and self-awareness. And chill is designed to help you check back in with what brings you joy, what gives you energy, what's your personal identity. And we run you through a whole bunch of stuff to help you carve out what that is. And then the last part of chill is how do you bring the best part of you together with your spouse so that way your relationship can have its very own chill. And honestly, it doesn't take a lot of crossover. As long as there's about 20% of things that jazz her up that match with me, we can have a very, very happy relationship. The second part is communication. Now that we're hanging out together more, we're probably going to fight more. And that's not really the punchline, but the punchline is how do you structure communication to make sure that everyone has transparency. And this is where she really built out the family business meeting, which only takes 15 minutes a week once you get good at it. But when you're starting, it's like 2 hours, and there's some serious conversations that happen.
But that's okay, because to add to the communication piece, we got really good at conflict resolution. Mm-hmm. Like we made it our job to go and figure out how best to come to constructive conversations. And that's another big piece of that communication.
So your kids are a part of these meetings?
Not yet.
Okay. Some of them they are. They are there for like our value and goal settings pieces, certainly, because we want them to have some input into where our family is going.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And we do look forward to doing these family business meetings with them. We just haven't quite figured out what format works best. A lot of it is dinner table conversations. So we do try to have dinner as much as possible together. But, the last part, by the way, kind of bleeds into this, which is community, which is, it takes a village to raise kids. Well, it also takes a village to support a family. Right. And we really highlight that the people that you are surrounding yourself with, who are supporting your business, your family, your community, really, really matter. And most of us do a great job picking people in our businesses through HR, but do a horrible job with the rest of it. And we kind of just drift into whatever support structure we have. And so it's all about how do you build healthy communities and interact with other people who have empathy for you. And so that final part is a Facebook group that we invite folks to join and kind of mesh with other people who are living this, I would say, exciting lifestyle. Would you say exciting?
Yes, I would now.
And the final thing was that while we are trying to do this, we kind of do it in a coaching online sense. But we want to help more people than Kerry and I can just help. So when we do a workshop, there's, anywhere between 12 and 24 families in these workshops, and we do these executive retreats, and we're always happy to go and do those. But it's a little frustrating only being able to help about 12 families at a time.
It really limits our reach.
So we've turned this into a train the trainer practice where we teach other coaches who already have the ability to nurture the entrepreneur to also add the whole life entrepreneurship methodology to their overall practice. And it's kind of a shortcut to reach the family because most families are not on LinkedIn.
Right.
Yeah.
So
that's awesome. So are you guys partnering on your other businesses as well, or is this where your most of your energy goes?
Well, again, I hold a board position across what we call Anderson Inc. So right now we have five. We have 5 projects rolling. And Adam kind of thinks of those as each having their own CEO. And I am the CEO of Whole Life Entrepreneurship. But I still have a finger on the pulse. Well, at least for the other 3, that extra one that you threw in there, maybe I'm not aware of yet. But
it happened this morning.
They turn around pretty quickly. So I do have a finger on the pulse of those, but I don't necessarily have anything in the day-to-day operations. You, however, are involved in everything.
Well, kind of. You cannot scale and grow multiple companies if you are the product and you are the core leader. So for each one of my companies, the first thing I do is determine product market fit. Is this something that works? And then I go find a CEO to run it. And then we stay typically at the board level because we want to know the things, but we don't want to do the things. I love teaching my kids how you generate your wealth should be independent on how you spend your time.
Right.
And so I believe that Kerry has a very vital role in all those companies in her role of board member of Family Inc., of Anderson Inc. I don't deploy capital over a certain amount without bringing it to a board decision. We treat it very much like a holding company that has a fiduciary responsibility to the shareholders, and the shareholders happen to be our family. And so being able to, it's very, very easy for me now to have my businesses that have nothing to do with whole life entrepreneurship integrate with our family because I'm following a corporate board structure. And, sometimes my board members don't show up to every meeting, but that's okay. That's what the family business meeting is all about. And we do have quarterly updates, and we follow the typical C Corp. This is what you have to do. And she gets all the data. And if has comments on it, what I find most valuable is that third party opinion on, you're not in the weeds all the time. And she really is one of my most valuable assets in business, is having her as a board director on the holding company that runs our empire. And
we've had other CEOs of our businesses want to pitch Adam for extra funding, and they have to pitch me as well.
They sure do.
Awesome.
And if I don't understand it, then they need to back it up and redo it because it should be that dumbed down.
So how's business in general been for you guys? How's especially this venture?
So this venture is still pre-revenue because the mission is so important to us. It's not pre-revenue. We make about $5,000 to go and do a workshop, but we're not pushing for it. A lot of the stuff is free and a lot of the stuff is figuring it out. We are about to launch our lead gen for finding coaches and partnering with those guys. And that's exciting. Quite a few coaches having some success with this on our alpha stage. Now that we're ready to go live, we're excited about that. All the other businesses are going pretty well, except for the ones that don't. And then they go out of business. And, there's no emotional attachment to it. We've learned very, very clear expectations are important. And so everyone who's bought in is bought in. But yeah, I tell you what, life after selling the company that pays all of the bills and you get that big chunk of money in the bank account, that is not pleasant because that bank account keeps going down and no more money's going in. And so we've been at about a year and a half of planting seeds and watching them grow and nurturing them. And so we're getting to a season of harvest, and that's pretty exciting.
And it's about managing expectations until then and staying calm and just praying that the sun comes out and it rains sometimes and something grows.
Well, and it's interesting, the unicorn phenomenon, right? We have one right now that is just crushing it. And it's exciting to see. So we were gone for 2 weeks down in the British Virgin Islands and then to Bangkok and came back. And that company had lined up triple expectations for revenue for the next quarter while we weren't even there.
Awesome.
Makes me feel very smart.
Right. Absolutely. That's great. That's what business is all about, right?
Amen. Yes, it is.
Well, the idea is that we build businesses that don't need us to leave our children all the time. Or
That's the key.
If we do have to leave, they can come with us sometimes and they can kind of get their education on the road. So the idea is that they get to have a mom and a dad regularly available to them as they need it. And that's hard to do when you're on the road hustling. So the idea is that we're trying to build something that doesn't always need us.
That's awesome. So I have a few questions for you guys. I'm just going to shoot them and just whatever comes to your mind, let me know. What are you most thankful for?
My wife.
You have to say that.
I know. No, but seriously, this is a hard road, and having a partner on your side rather than having a partner attacking. I am so thankful that my wife decided to engage and figure this stuff out and endure to this point. Never imagined life could be this good. And so, yeah, absolutely thankful for my wife.
I think that if I had to say, I am just most thankful for the journey. I mean, the good and the bad. I'm just so grateful to have been able to cue in enough to be able to learn a few things and now be able to share those things.
I think I heard her say she was thankful for her husband. I think that's what she said.
What are you guys most scared of at this point?
Oh man, I pretty much have to swallow some amount of fear every time Adam opens his mouth. You just never know. We left Bangkok last week after 6 days of being with a group of just absolutely brilliant creators and innovators. And yeah, it was just like, please don't let us make another investment right now. Please don't let us make another investment right. Because he's always got some sort of idea cooking. He's got a brilliant mind that sees the world in a way that most people don't see it. I mean, just a complete bird's eye view of something. And yeah, if I had to say what I'm scared of, it's just that we're going to get into another one before we've got the other one fully cooked. So I just try and manage that a little bit.
Yeah.
I'm also grateful for it because it's gotten us where we are.
Yeah.
What are you scared of?
I am very uncomfortable with the concept of leading by example. It's something that's super important to me, and it's also something I'm very aware of. And so up to this point in my life, I've been able to just go at it. But now that leading by example is super important to me, I feel it's changing me for the better to understand that how I show up in the world impacts the people around me that I love and care about, and that other people are watching how I act and that it matters. And so my biggest fear probably is failing on that route that causes someone to be inspired to take a different path than maybe what is healthiest for them.
All right. And what are you most happy about?
Our kids.
Yeah. I'm really happy about the way that we are able to craft how we're raising them.
Yep.
And I love that, even though that's a little bit hard. Adam is 100% a self-made man. He never finished college and has continued to prove over and over again that he is brilliant and has a great mind for business. And so I want my kids to see that, while education is important, what's more important is that they work hard and that they show up for their lives and they have great integrity in what they're doing.
Yeah, and when they demonstrate that, we're happy. The other times where they do not is so frustrating.
Yeah. But this lifestyle is what affords us the luxury of being able to teach them those things.
Right. And what do you look forward to?
I look forward to being retired with you one day.
Too far out, girl. I look forward to all of the adventures we have every year. We are about experiences, and I always love the idea of taking it to that next step, that next family adventure, that next, what's that thing we didn't think we can do, and then let's go do it. To me, that is something to look forward to. I do look forward to retirement. I calculate retirement as my kids are out of my house and all the pets are dead. So now we have freedom.
That's what I'm thinking when I think retirement. Like, we get to go do all those fun things without kids.
I mean, they're precious. They're so
I'm glad
good.
we get to experience that now.
They should go live their lives. Yeah.
That's awesome. Yeah. That's awesome. And what would you like your legacy to be?
We think about this a lot. We've talked about this a lot when we talk about our vision, values, and goals for our family and our businesses. And, we've talked, like many business owners, I'm sure I've talked with their partners as well, about how to curate wealth, how to manage wealth, what to do with it when you get it, what success actually looks like. And we've decided together that we don't want our kids to have Ferraris when they're 19. We want businesses that generate money that we can put to work in organizations that we really, really believe in, ones that have real impact on big world issues, so that they can have a farther reach in fixing this broken world that we're leaving our kids. And that's my hope, that we have some impact on the world that we're leaving them in. What about you?
Well said. Let's do that.
Awesome. Great. This has been great. It's been great talking to you. It's very inspiring seeing you come together as a family that supports the kind of a lifestyle that you have and the right values that you're teaching your kids as well. What is that one thing, when you look back at your entire journey, one learning that you can leave for our listeners?
The biggest thing that I've figured out after I sold my company, I was never more miserable. And a good buddy of mine said, look, the real definition of failure is being super successful at something you do not care about. I want to encourage people to not be successful for the sake of being successful and thinking that you're going to find happiness in dollar signs. It does feel good to close the deal, and it does feel good when the money is pouring in. But at the end of the day, there is a reckoning with yourself coming. And if you don't start addressing it now, you are super susceptible to a huge identity crisis and being crushed on the other side of this entrepreneurial journey.
Yeah, I think I would agree. Your why matters, and having a bigger purpose in what you're trying to do with your life can really, really steer where you go. And I think it's definitely worth the time to really, really think about that and do a deep dive into what your motivations actually are and what success looks like for you, because it may not be what you think it is.
Yeah, we've often said that you have to sacrifice your family for your business or your business for your family. But we've discovered is that's not true, is that when you pour into your family, you have the energy to pour into your business, and all of a sudden 1 + 1 = 10. And it is shocking the amount of prosperity you can have financially by taking care of things emotionally at home.
Hey, thank you so much for joining us today, sharing all those value nuggets, sharing your life with us. I hope this inspires a lot more entrepreneurs out there or wannabe entrepreneurs. At the same time, they see the upturns and downturns, and they know exactly how to maneuver themselves through that journey. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you. We really appreciate it.
Hey, I hope you enjoyed that episode. Please do check out my website, rajivmudumba.com, and do leave a review and a comment on your favorite platform for Plan B Success Podcast. Thank you.